I worked at a small software company in the mid 2000s. It was a pretty wild time in the software development world. Sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter were born, while sites like MySpace burned. Everyone was racing to grab a piece of the social media space. People were calling it Web 2.0. Startups and developers adopted one of Facebook's mottos: move fast and break things. Suddenly, speed and time to market were more important than anything else. Big companies were gobbling up small software shops and making or breaking them. I worked at one of those shops and witnessed big company destroy it. It's a cautionary tale of moving too fast and breaking too many things. Small company was my first job after graduating college, and it's a gem on my resume. I loved working there. The lead architect was a great developer and mentor who guided my career. It was owned by two smart men who genuinely cared about solving problems for their clients. They also only did work for ethical companies that treated their customers well. The owners also cared deeply about their employees. Our office space was comfortable and serene. We had the full Herman Miller setup with great chairs, soft lighting, pink noise generators, gorgeous view of the mountains, and hip workstations instead of cubicles. It was nice. But sometimes we can't have nice things. I discovered this when our small company was acquired by Big Company, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Big Company was a fast-rising health company that had recently acquired 4 other companies. It seemed like a good deal for us. We'd work mostly on new projects, including experimental ones, and we'd take a leadership role in creating software standards. So in general, we'd retain our autonomy. Over the next few weeks, corporate people came by the office. I remember one occasion in particular. A woman from Human Resources sat down with us in the conference room. She had a strong presence and disarming smile, and she had everyone laughing. Supposedly, the meeting was for answering questions about the merger, but in reality, the woman spent much of her time soothing fears. She said we're part of a larger family now, with an incredible culture. Then she said something that struck me. She said, "Don't worry, nothing is going to change." I don't know why, but that jarred me. My perspective shifted, and I saw the whole process as an act. This merger was upending the lives of dozens of people. They had very real fears about the future of the company. But this woman, I imagine it was a performance she was familiar with and one she'd forget soon after. I wondered who this message was for. Were there people who thought nothing would change? The others were reading through their paperwork, questioning the HR woman, or talking with each other about the exciting change. A lot of tension was diffused. I, however, felt like I was on the first page of a movie script for Office Space, or the first panel of a Dilbert cartoon. I knew something absurd was about to happen. I felt like the merger between my company and Big Company was a great opportunity. I was excited to see if Big Company could acquire small company without destroying it. Succeed or fail, I felt like I had to see what was about to happen. I didn't make my final decision to stay until my promotion meeting. The owner sincerely cared about me and my career. He was always smiling and upbeat. So I knew something was off during the meeting because he was rambling a bit and glancing away, laughing nervously. Eventually he said, "I know I promised you a higher raise, but we got locked into Big Company's raise schedule, and now I can only offer you a 3% raise. I understand if you won't accept that." But I did accept it. I said yes almost immediately. His head shot up and he said, "Really? I thought for sure you'd quit." I said that I'd love to stay. I mean, how could I pass this up? At first, we did do interesting work. There was enthusiasm all around, as well as ambition to achieve what Big Company called their BAG, or Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. That changed over the next several months as we got more and more specific requests for odd features. This was a problem because we had to pull developers off the main project to work on the new feature. It was frustrating. One day we got a feature request that made me livid. They wanted us to make a dynamic HTML crossword puzzle with health terms to improve patient well-being, and that it was the top priority. I knew this was a feature no one would ever see. The main project was already behind, and adding a crossword puzzle would suck up too many resources. But it was a client request, so we had to do it. The feature was so asinine, I thought there must have been a misunderstanding. Why would a crossword puzzle take priority over fixing the main site, which was already behind? I decided to find who requested this. I emailed people asking who made the request. I was directed back and forth, but no one knew for sure. I eventually found the source, the company product team. They were responsible for the product's vision. I asked why they wanted a crossword puzzle and why it was the highest priority. They said a client requested it, and all new features had to be tied directly to a customer request. When I asked why it was the top priority, they said, because it was the last thing we sold. I asked if there's a roadmap for our site, not a specific feature, but for the whole product. I was interested in seeing it from a sales or customer's viewpoint. They said not really, but we're putting together a sales presentation that might help. Then they told me to check back in a few weeks, which I did. I asked about the vision again, and they said they didn't have anything like that. The emails weren't antagonistic. The product team simply didn't have the answers to my questions, especially when I asked my next one. What is our product? I think that caught them off guard. They asked what I meant. I said, what are we selling? I would have been satisfied with a 30-second sales pitch. Instead, they started ignoring my emails. I wrote one final email. I don't remember who it was to, but I said I didn't know who to talk about the product. The very next day, a man came to the office and asked if I was the one that sent the email, and I said yes. Then he said, listen, the upper leadership knows about the bloated middle management. We know our messages aren't getting down to the people who need them. We also know we're not getting the messages from the people on the ground who knew what they were doing. I want to let you know that we're working on it. Will you please stop asking these questions until we resolve it? He was polite and professional, and I believed him. I agreed to stop sending emails. Now, this is my second job after college. My first one cared about their customers. They cared about their reputation. They cared about their employees. I naively thought big company did too. I didn't realize it at the time, but the real customers were the insurance companies who, let's be honest, didn't care about their customers at all. I cared about them though, and others in the company did too. This reached a boiling point when I got a task to create a BMI calculator. That was simple enough, but the formula I got was saying a healthy diet was 1,000 calories or even less. I found the official formula and used that, but it still bothered me that it had been wrong in the first place. Before this, it was just bad business practice, but this would actually hurt people. I tracked down the lead dietitian and told her what was going on. She sounded relieved when I told her. She had also been trying to tell people that the formulas were wrong, as well as other harmful advice, but no one would listen. Our frustration with messages not making it to decision makers was short-lived because soon afterwards we got word the big company was having a town hall. A representative from each office was invited to corporate headquarters for a discussion with the C-suite. I was chosen to represent my office. I'll never forget this, but as I was leaving, the project manager put his hand on my shoulder and said, no one wants to be the one to jump on the grenade, but they always appreciate the one who does. Thanks for doing this. I didn't understand what he meant at the time. It never occurred to me that there was any danger. I flew out that night. Oh, and the dietitian was also representing her office. The next morning, I went to the town hall. It was in a large room with high windows that shed bright light in the room. There were 50 or 60 people, including telehealth nurses, corporate employees, representatives from remote offices, and people from the companies that had been recently acquired. The conversation and mood were cordial. People laughed and joked in side conversations. After mingling, the CEO welcomed us and introduced the C-suite. He said it was an open town hall and we could ask any questions we wanted. He wanted to hear the most difficult things too and told us not to hold back. I think it was all sincere. I always got a good vibe from the CEO. The nurses started and spoke for an hour or so. Their concerns were mostly practical, like not enough time in the day, struggles with technology, and so on. When my turn came up, I laid it out. I told him we were having major problems. I told him the product team didn't know what we were building, and so didn't have a vision or roadmap that described what we were building, or any documentation at all, really. I told him I had tried to raise issues many times, but the message never made it to the right person. I told him about the BMI calculator and other problems with content. When I mentioned the BM calculator, the dietitian spoke up. She said, I got the wrong information too. I've tried to raise the same issues. She was defensive, and I changed my tone to let her know I wasn't accusing her and that I considered her a peer. She brought up many serious issues of her own that got lost somewhere along the way. I was frustrated. She was frustrated. And I know the executives were too. Other issues were brought up, but I don't remember what they were. I was amazingly naive. In my mind, I was delivering useful information the company needed to reach their big, hairy, audacious goal. Looking back, it was more of a whistleblower type situation, though I didn't think of it that way. That wasn't my intention. After everything settled down, people drifted away and started chatting. I didn't know anyone, so I just made small talk with the people around me. Then a man pulled me aside and introduced himself as the company's lead salesman. He was very excited. He said, I'm so glad you spoke about the product team not knowing what the product is, because, to be honest, I don't know what I've been selling. I couldn't believe it, or I guess I could. It explained so many things, billions of dollars, and no one knew what we were selling. All I could think of was dynamic HTML crossword puzzle with health terms. Then an executive put his arms around my shoulder and said, "The CEO wants you to know that you are safe. No one will retaliate against you." I thought, was that on the table? Was I in danger of retaliation? Apparently, the answer was yes. Retaliation was on the table. Nothing came of it, though. I got back home and went to work as usual. Small Company didn't exist in a recognizable form. The office was crammed full of dozens of new workstations. Original developers left and were replaced by contractors. In one of the last meetings I attended, Big Company told the 4 remaining developers from Small Company that it was hiring 40 new developers. We were each going to manage 10 of them. At that point, I was out, and I left shortly afterwards. Remember the HR woman who talked to Small Company before the merger? The one who told us nothing would change? I knew that wasn't true, but I wanted to see if a small company could survive. This one did not. I learned a lot, though. I learned about psychology, corporate culture, power dynamics, and technical project management. Overall, it was a worthwhile experience. One lesson stuck out. I don't know exactly how to describe it because it is foreign to me. When I asked the product team what was selling, they said, "We don't know," so easily and without any self-awareness. It's like they never even thought about asking what our product was, even when I brought it to their attention. They just didn't care. I looked around at everyone working and realized many, maybe even most, didn't care if the company lived or died. If they got fired as a project manager, they'd go manage projects elsewhere. If the receptionist left, another took his place the next day. We were like cogs in the machine. I don't know what happened to Big Company, but I know during the year and a half when all this happened that their stock price plummeted and was worth probably 20% of its previous value. There is a good ending to the story, though. I found out later, after I had left, that the person at Big Company who acquired Small Company released the previous owners from all non-compete agreements, and then he apologized for destroying the company. I don't know what the owners did after that, but I hope they're doing well. They taught me a lot about ethical software development.